it's such a privilege to be part of this wonderful event and to listen to the phenomenal stories from phenomenal women who have spoken before me. I would like to thank you, Dean Pillay, and your team for presenting us this opportunity for dialogue. We meet, as Dr. Fraser said earlier, at a time when it is Women's Month and the centenary of Mama Albertina Sisulu. Therefore, the dialogue is timely in that not only are we celebrating our stories and what we can do and what we will do going forward, but we're also celebrating the achievements of the giants who went before us, and among them being Mama Albertina Sisulu. I thought we should also, though, remember, given the fact that it is the centenary of this university, the University of Stellenbosch, the women pioneers who went before us in this university, whether as students or as lecturers. And I do hope that before the end of the centenary, we will get to see their faces and get to have a day when we celebrate them and get to know their stories so that we get to understand how did it feel like to walk in their shoes, to give us a sense of walking better in our own shoes. And about Mama Albertina Sisulu, may I beg your indulgence by making a request that you join me in asking President Cyril Ramaphosa to have one of the national orders named after her. If you want to know why, the only thing I can say is that there are 6 national orders, 3 named after things and 3 named after men. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just that we do then end up with a particular mindset. And I don't want to tell you what's wrong. I would rather invite you to read City Press this Sunday or Rapport. And then you'll find out what's the argument for a national order named after Mama Albertina Sisulu. That will also explain why not others. Why not Charlotte Maxeke? Why not Olive Schreiner? Why not Helen Joseph or Helen Suzman? Why specifically Albertina Sisulu? Please read that. We're also commemorating the centenary of Nelson Mandela. And why is that centenary important to us when we're talking about women who can? I thought for me we should look at it from a woman's point of view and say the reason he grew to be such a giant as a leader is because of the women behind him. Starting with Umama Nosekeni, who decided to do without one less child. You know, in the rural areas, children are part of the labor force in a household. And she decided that it would be better for her child to go and live with an uncle so that he could get a better education than she gets an extra pair of hands. That says a lot about her own leadership, and it says a lot about her own vision of life. We also can see behind the giant that was Nelson Mandela, Mama Winnie Mandela, who continued to keep the Mandela name alive after Nelson Mandela went to prison. And she also kept the struggle alive. And finally, we have Mama Graça Machel, who also continued to support Nelson Mandela very gracefully and very quietly, despite being her leader herself, to allow Nelson Mandela to achieve the great things he achieved in the twilight of his years. But what can I tell you about my life and the I can paradigm? Firstly, I would like to say that to my parents' initial disappointment, I've ended up with a life that was more dedicated to helping others climb the ladder of life than trying to climb it myself. A lot of the work I've done today has been either getting people to climb that ladder of life or to stop someone from stopping them from climbing the ladder of life. So this would be a life as a teacher, a life as a trade unionist, as a SANCO or civil society activist, as a lawyer, giving people pro bono support, as a law commissioner, and finally, as a park protector. You would ask, why would you devote your life to helping others climb the ladder of success when you yourself are not rich? I mean, part of the reason we do work is because we get joy out of it, but part of it is that we need money. I truly don't know what happened, because I do know that my parents were very disappointed, particularly my dad. Interestingly, he wanted me to earn money as fast as possible, to the extent that when I finished grade 10, he arranged for me to go and study nursing at Baragwanath Hospital so that I could start earning as I was studying. He was disappointed, chucked me out of home, forgave me eventually. And when I finally got my degree, he was very happy. And to his disappointment, I then joined a trade union and worked for pro bono. Even my mom, who had always been in my corner, didn't quite understand this one, because at that stage, we only got bus money, and sometimes no bus money. So a lot of the bus money had to be provided by my father, which he did, begrudgingly. And then when we were arrested, and in the mid-'80s, and I was detained for 3 months, my father thought, oh, this is wonderful. And after this, she will never do these stupid things again. And I didn't stop doing what he initially thought were stupid things, but eventually understood that it was not different from his own life of resisting injustice and pursuing what he thought was right. Who is to blame for that? I think partly my church. I was raised as a Seventh-day Adventist, and helping others to be the best they could be was ingrained in that church. But I also had to attend 3 churches in one weekend. On Saturday, I went to church on Saturday because my mom had been raised as a Seventh-day Adventist, and although she had to comply with marital requirements, she still wanted us to be raised as a Seventh-day Adventist. And so we went to a Seventh-day Adventist school. But on Sunday, we had to go to a Methodist church because my grandmother was Methodist. And then because our parents stayed here and we went to Swaziland to study, in the afternoon, we voluntarily went to church. Me and my younger siblings, and my brother was a little bit older than me. We went with our aunt to church, the Zion church. You know those who wear those white things and they dance in those ways? We went to that church, and we even got those little things made for us by my aunt. And you wonder, why did we go to church? It was for food. Because our parents were this side, so there wasn't always enough food at home, but my aunt, to give us food, which on Sunday people used to cook good food, we had to go to church for the food. I think it might sound terrible, but she could have made us sell drugs for food. So she didn't. She made us go to church, which meant 3 times of church. And now you wonder, why did I end up being so spiritual? I couldn't turn out otherwise. But on the question of why I chose to help others to fight injustice and to be the best they could be, I believe my father had some influence in my mother. My mother was the informal social worker who was always there to help others and who was always there to solve disputes. My father, on the other hand, was a great storyteller. They talk about a tale where they say that there was a hunter who always told these stories where he was always better than the lions. He was always the hero, and the lions were always cowards. And that's the story of my father. In his stories, the magistrates were always cowards. And he was always the hero of the story when he was fighting for his rights to be a trader with a license. The government would not give him a license, but he kept being arrested. And so he told us those stories. He told us the stories of Mandela, the stories of Pixley, Kaseme, etc. And I think that was what made us feel that if these good human beings did so much about justice, maybe we also need to do something about justice. But we are here to talk about I Can. And when I look at my own life, I think a lot of it has a lot to do with what I chose not to do, as opposed to what I chose to do. I was looking at, when I was small, I refused to go to nursing school. And later, when I finished matric, and my pastor thought I should rather do Bible school because lawyers are liars. Good Christians should not be lawyers. Well, of course, he didn't know there's so many good lawyers here in Stellenbosch and a lot of good judges. He wanted me to go to Bible school instead. No, I said no. And later, I got recruited by an insurance company when I was working for a trade union movement, earning nothing, but I still didn't want to go and work for an insurance company. And when I was a unionist, there was a time when, after I got a baby, I was demoted to go to work at a branch. Well, I saw it as a demotion. It was same salary, but from being a national organizer to go and go to a branch, I chose not to do that. Instead, I went back to university and then did my LLB. I already had a law degree. Constitutional Assembly, 1994, I had an opportunity to go there. I had a guaranteed spot. There's 10 people from COSATU. The answer was no. And IEC, I got a job. The answer was no. I ended up as a presiding officer. Harvard, I had an opportunity to go there. I said no because we're drafting the Constitution. LASA, Justice Mlambo keeps reminding me that he gave me a job, and I said no. It's Legal Aid South Africa. It's a whole lot. And then last year, when I ended up at Harvard, I had a job offer at Oxford. And when I told a friend about it, the friend said, it's a stupid thing to go from a fire and then go to Oxford and teach. Rather go and have a rest at Harvard, which I did. It was a good rest because it gave me an opportunity to formulate about ideas about this social justice chair, because Professor Gwopman and Professor Botman and Professor Human gave me a blank check. We want you to do something on social justice, but we were not clear at that stage. There's so much to do on social justice. There's everything to do on social justice. Harvard gave me that opportunity. And after they approached me, I got so many other offers, including a VC offer. And the answer was no. So my life has been a lot about no's. But where is the I can moment then, if a lot of it has been about no? I would say that there is an I can there. The I can is I can follow my dream in terms of doing that which resonates with myself. And there's a sense of faith there that even if I don't go on the ladder which has quick success and quick money, the ladder that I chose would eventually take me to where I belong. And that's exactly what happened. If you read the book, The Road Less Traveled by Scott Peck, I think I somehow ended up on the road less traveled, and that made all the difference. It's not always easy, though, to go on the road less traveled, particularly at times when there's turbulence, there's uncertainty, there's difficulty, and even ambivalence. So what have I learned from that journey regarding I can? The one thing is that I've learned is that helping others is helping yourself. That when there's a need and you step up and you say, I can help, you cannot light a candle to light someone else's path without brightening your own. How did that happen for me? All of these things work together. For example, you know me as a pup protector. That job came just after I was licking my wounds because I had been nominated for a constitutional court job. I didn't get even just a letter of acknowledgement. And then when this one came, it came from a woman by the name of Martha Muller, who said, this would be a continuation of what you've been doing. And the lesson I learned is that sometimes you don't know what you can fully. It takes someone else to realize what you can do. And at that point, all you need to do is show up. And that's what I did. Law Commission, same thing. Bridget Mabandla called me and said I should do this. And then I remembered that I had said I wanted to be a lawyer in order to change the laws. And there was it. I believe in providence. I believe in a calling that somehow God just placed it in front of me and said, this is the opportunity to change the laws. And it all happened. I also have learned that I can change my circumstances and I can change the circumstances of others. But working alone, I can make a difference. But I can make a bigger difference when I work with others. Because a candle is strong against darkness, but more candles are formidable against darkness. I also have learned that we live in a wounded society. And then I can heal some of those wounds, but alone I can heal only a little of those wounds. Together, we can heal more of those woundedness. If you look at the women that walked before us, what drove them? It was really healing the problems in society. From Charlotte Maxeke and Olive Schreiner to Masisulu and the two Helens, Joseph and Susan, it was all about understanding that as long as there's injustice somewhere, there can't be sustainable peace anywhere. But what I also learned is we're happiest when we do what we believe in. I've also learned that agility is not everything. The fact that you're not the head of anything right now doesn't matter if you're doing what you believe in. Abandoning that and doing what somebody else asks you to do might kill your soul. I've been asked, will you be a president of our party? People starting parties. And my approach is, that's not what I'm meant to do. So just going forward, what my message to women in South Africa today is, we stand on shoulders of giants. But the battlefield is in our minds. And this is what Edmund Hillary once said, that it is not the mountain that we conquer, it is the mountain in our heads that we conquer. So for women in South Africa today, there are problems, but they're not insurmountable. The biggest problem we have to conquer is the one in our head. When somebody taps you and says, there's a problem to be solved, we think you are the best person suited for it. Think carefully. Of course, if it doesn't resonate with your soul, don't do it, even if it's going to give you glory. But if you really feel that you have unique skills to do that, step up and show up. That will make all the difference. And if you have an opportunity to work with others, do so. Right now, we have an opportunity as women of this country to heal the divisions of the past and emerging divisions. And one of the areas where I invite us to step up and say we can is the issue of land. How about a women's summit around the land issue? What's our own perspective? Do we want to butt heads about it? Or there are other alternatives? Those who went before us said, yes, we can. In all our spaces right now, we're doing a whole lot of things because we've believed we can. But some of the problems before us are about us connecting our lights. Because every generation has an opportunity and responsibility to make the next chapter of its community and the world a better one. It's our turn to step up and make the next chapter of this country and the world a better one. Thank you.